Hello y'all. Today I am out in the country on a road in front of a plum thicket. It's about 4 or 5 miles from my house. Um, Today I want to talk to you about wild plums. Not everything I preserve is from my garden, from a farmer's market, or from a grocery store. One of my most favorite things to preserve is wild plums, and I do this by making jam or jelly. I've been picking wild plums for years. Um, I used to come out here on these same roads with my grandparents to pick plums, with my parents, and later on down the line when I got married, my husband and I started picking wild plums to make jam and jelly because that just happens to be his favorite jelly. Um, Not every year we are so lucky to have so many plums as we did last year. Last year we had so many plums that the branches on the shrubs, the bushes were just hanging. Like your fruit trees when they're just so covered with fruit. And so I took advantage of it. Over about a 3-week period of time, I picked about 15 gallons of wild plums, took them home, got them all cleaned up, cooked them down to make juice and pulp, and put it in the freezer. So in case this year we didn't have a wild plum crop, I would still have juice and plum pulp in the freezer to make jam and jelly. Well, this year they bloomed out about the 1st of April and they were just beautiful. And then towards the end of April, we had a freeze that was totally unexpected, and it killed out almost all of the wild plums as well as most of the fruit on our fruit trees in this area. So thankfully I have all that wild plum juice in my freezer to make some more batches here pretty quick. From experience, when I have when I have frozen the juice and the pulp, I know that it lasts up to 5 years in the freezer because I had some in the freezer that we defrosted, and my mom made some jam and jelly out of it, and it was delicious. So wild plums are also known as sand plums, native plums, Chickasaw plums. Different places probably call them different things, and there's also several different varieties of wild plums. They grow on small, scrubby, thorny bushes, and usually these bushes kind of multiply quickly. There's new shoots from the roots, the shallow roots of these bushes, and they really just turn into thickets all along the bar ditches, in pastures, along creeks and the river. So because of that, there seems to be a lot of food for birds and deer and other wild animals in the area, as long as we have a harvest. So in nature, like I said, the suckers are sent up from the roots, which grow into more bushes. But bushes can also come up from seed as well. I've had them come up from seed before at home, but they don't like my soil. I have like really heavy clay soil, as I mentioned before, and plums really like kind of gravelly, rough soil, with some sand mixed in, that sort of thing. Plant plums, when they're ready to pick, they're usually about the size of a large cherry, but that can also differ in some areas because last year we were looking at one group of plums that were really nice sized plums. They were just beautiful. And then we went a few miles away to another road where there were more plum thickets, and they were very small. So it made me wonder how much of a difference there was in the soil, how much of a difference there was in how much water those plum thickets were receiving, or maybe how much shade there was in that area. Maybe the ones that were in the shadier area weren't growing as large. So I found that to be pretty interesting. They usually bloom around the 1st to the 15th of April, sometimes a little earlier. This year, a lot of our fruit trees were blooming pretty early because it was like we didn't have much of a winter here at all this year. It was really kind of strange. As they ripen, they turn red. At first, they kind of turn this kind of blushy pinkish orange color, I guess you could say. And then in the end, when they're ripe and ready to pick, they're red. In southwest Oklahoma, wild plums are usually ready to pick starting about the 4th week in June through the 2nd week in July. Some thickets, depending on their location, will ripen up quicker than others. So last year we made several trips over about a 3-week period out to the country to pick wild plums. The plum skin is very tough. It is not like the skin of a grape. So when you cook the plums down before you mash them all, it will soften up just a little bit, but it would not soften up. It's not like a grape. The grape skin gets extremely soft, and if you were to actually put the grape skin into the grape jam or jelly, I don't think it would really make much of a difference. However, plums are much different. The skin of the plum is actually very tart as well, where the flesh of the plum, when it is ripe, is very sweet. There's a car coming. I'm out in the country, so I'm going to have to kind of wait here a minute, I think, until they make up their mind or see where they're going. And I definitely want you to hear me on this, so I'm sorry about this. I'm fine, sir. I'm just making a video. Thank you. Okay, so next thing I will mention is Native Americans use the bark of the plum bushes in their medications. And also the Navajo were known for using the roots to make a natural red dye. The main uses of wild plums for us today is jam, jelly, and wine. I've never made plum wine, never even thought of making plum wine. However, I could see where it could be very similar to using grapes. If you decide that you want to pick plums, there's several things you need to keep in mind. And I'm not trying to scare you, I just want to be honest with you. One thing, the vines are very thorny. So you need to be very careful when you actually pick the plums. And I've kind of learned there's kind of an art of just kind of reaching up, grabbing the plums and pulling down. Here is one of the plums that's not quite ready. I actually found it on a really protected area down another road, and that's about the only one I saw. But this is still pretty firm. But anyway, they kind of grow kind of like cherries, I guess you could say, kind of like in little groups, so you can reach up, wrap your fingers around them, and pull down. Another thing is snakes like to lay under plum thickets. It's kind of cool under there, and they can kind of hide there and be quiet and wait for a mouse or something to come along and grab it. So when you go out to pick plums, it's always a good idea to wear blue jeans or like a heavy canvas pants, because you don't want to go out there walking around in the plum thickets wearing shorts. Also, you need to have on closed-toe shoes. Something like boots would probably be the best, but if you don't have boots, you know, wear some heavy leather shoes or some tennis shoes, something of that nature. Also, when I go plum picking, I like to take a lightweight cotton long sleeve shirt with me just to put on for when I'm actually picking, because sometimes when you're in there in the bushes, those thorns can rub up against your skin and scratch you pretty good. And also, you know, you have to deal with mosquitoes and that sort of thing as well. Make sure you take a bucket or a basket or a box, something like that, to put your plums in. Plastic bags like they give you at the grocery store with your groceries in, those are not really very good. Your plums can kind of get damaged when they're in those bags. I always like to pick some plums that are not quite ripe, because they actually add some tartness to my jam and jelly, so it's not quite so sweet. And when you get home with your plums, always wash them, look through them, make sure there's no bad plums, because when you're reaching up and grabbing a group of plums and pulling them down, you may not see that there might be a plum or two in that group that might have some damage from an insect. It may be overripe and kind of rotting a little bit, and you might have some leaves in with it too. So you want to pick out all the leaves, you want to pick out all the bad plums, make sure your plums are clean before you put them in a pot on the stove to start processing them. If you're interested in learning how to make plum jelly, plum jam, let me know. I can't walk you through all of it because, like I say, my plums were processed last year, and it's important that you know how to cook them down, but it's kind of like cooking down your grapes. If you grow grapes or you buy grapes to make grape jelly or grape jam, you know how you cook your grapes down first, and then you put it through a strainer to get the skin off of them, or the skin and the seeds. It's a lot like that. If you enjoyed my video today, please give me a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to my channel yet, please do. I have a lot more coming. If you have any ideas for future videos, please let me know. I'm always interested in what other people would like to learn about. And if I don't know about it, I can always research it and put the information out to you, okay? So I hope you guys are all staying well and continue to stay well. I know that it's really hard right now with everything that's going on, but just stay positive and we'll get through all this. Hope you have a good day. Thank you for watching. Bye.